Imagine a figure so divine that when he walked on wet sand, his feet left no footprints. Now imagine another tradition that says this same figure was an ordinary man, a prophet, whom God promoted to divine status. Both of these were Christian beliefs. Both were eventually declared heretical. The version of Jesus that billions of people believe in today, fully God and fully human, was only one option among at least 6, and it took over 300 years of bitter debate to win. So let's map these positions out, starting with the ones that might surprise you most. Christology is the study of the nature of Jesus Christ. What is he? Human? Divine? Both? Neither in the way we'd expect? Here's something most people don't realize. In first century Judaism, the terms Christ and Messiah did not mean God. The Messiah was a human king who would restore Israel's throne. The earliest Christians didn't all agree Jesus was always divine. Some believed God adopted Jesus as his son at a specific moment, and this view is called Adoptionism, the belief that Jesus was a human elevated to divine status. The earliest version placed that moment at the resurrection. Paul quotes what scholars believe is a pre-Pauline formula, a creed older than Paul's own letters, in Romans chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. Jesus was designated Son of God in power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by his resurrection from the dead. Designated, not eternally existing. Promoted. Other Christians pushed the moment of adoption earlier to Jesus' baptism. In some ancient manuscripts of Luke chapter 3, verse 22, the voice from heaven doesn't say, "With you I am well pleased." It says, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." A direct quote from Psalm 2, verse 7, a royal enthronement psalm. That word, today, changes everything. It means Jesus becomes God's son right there in the Jordan River. Luke chapter 9, verse 35 reinforces this with the word chosen. Selection language, not identity language. Still, other Christians placed adoption even earlier, at birth. The birth narratives in Matthew and Luke, where the Spirit conceives Jesus, can be read as the moment God creates his Son, not the moment an eternal being enters a body. Now, the other end of the spectrum. The Gospel of John opens with the highest Christology in the New Testament. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. No adoption, no promotion. Jesus exists with God before creation itself. All things were made through him. This is the view that would eventually become orthodox. But taken to its extreme, it produced a problem. If Jesus was so thoroughly divine, was he even truly human? Some Christians said no. This view is called docetism. From the Greek word dokein, meaning to seem. Jesus only appeared to have a body. He only seemed to suffer. His feet left no footprints. First John's insistence that Jesus came in the flesh is a direct attack on this position. Now let's see the full logic that produced these positions. Early Christians faced a series of branching questions. Is Jesus only human or also divine? If divine, was he always divine or did he become divine? If he became divine, when? And if he was always divine, was he also fully human? Each answer leads to a different Christology. Each had followers, scriptures, and arguments behind it. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the evidence for these competing views isn't hidden in obscure texts. It's in the New Testament itself. Look at Luke chapter 3, verse 22, the baptism of Jesus. A textual variant is a difference between ancient manuscript copies of the same text. Most manuscripts read, "You are my beloved son, with you I am well pleased," echoing Isaiah's servant song. But several ancient manuscripts, including Codex Bezae, read, "You are my son, today I have begotten you," quoting Psalm 2, the royal enthronement psalm. The theological difference is enormous. One reading confirms a pre-existing relationship, the other creates one on the spot. Scholar Bart Ehrman argues the Adoptionist reading was original and was later changed by Orthodox scribes. Other scholars say a scribe simply completed a partial psalm quotation. This matters because if scribes altered text to suppress adoptionism, then the New Testament as we have it has been shaped by later theological commitments. This isn't conspiracy, it's how ancient texts were transmitted. Scribes were not neutral copyists, they were theologians. Consider Acts chapter 2, verse 36. Peter's sermon declares God has made him both Lord and Messiah. The Greek verb is epoisen, he made. That's elevation language, not identity language. God didn't reveal Jesus as Lord. God made him Lord. Peter's sermon, as recorded in Acts, preserves a Christology the later church will reject. The debate wasn't purely intellectual. It involved bishops, emperors, councils, and excommunications. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, convened by Emperor Constantine, produced the Nicene Creed, declaring Jesus of one substance with the Father. The Council of Chalcedon in 451 CE went further, defining Jesus as fully divine and fully human, two natures in one person. That's over 400 years from the crucifixion to the final definition. From a historian's perspective, the outcome was contingent, shaped by power, persuasion, and circumstance, not inevitable. Even individual authors don't fit neatly into one category. Take Paul. Romans chapter 1 sounds adoptionist. Jesus designated Son of God at the resurrection. But Philippians chapter 2, the Christ hymn, describes Jesus as existing in the form of God before emptying himself to become human. That's pre-existence language, closer to John's prologue. Paul may be quoting an older tradition in Romans and expressing his own developed view in Philippians, or he may hold both ideas in tension without resolving them. Either way, the New Testament contains multiple Christologies, sometimes within the same author. Step back and look at the full picture. Of at least 6 positions on the nature of Jesus, only one survived as orthodox. The others didn't disappear because they were obviously wrong. They were argued against, voted down, and suppressed over centuries. The label heretical was applied after the debate was settled, not before. The New Testament itself contains the fingerprints of this process. Texts that, read carefully, preserve the voices of the losing side. Romans 1, Acts 2, the variant reading of Luke 3. These aren't marginal footnotes. They're windows into a Christianity that looked very different from the one that won. Understanding that orthodoxy was constructed through debate changes how we read the Bible, how we understand religious authority, and how we think about the relationship between history and belief. The question, was Jesus always divine? Didn't have one answer in the first century. It took 300 years and considerable human effort to settle on one. The next time someone tells you what Christians have always believed, remember the earliest Christians couldn't even agree on whether Jesus was God, let alone when he became one.